Cyberpunk 2077 continues to set new milestones years after release. After a disappointing launch, countless updates, and a critically acclaimed anime, Cyberpunk 2077 hits an impressive review milestone. Cyberpunk 2077 is the perfect example of a classic comeback by a game that most of the people hated initially when it came out. Not to mention that there were endless reasons for why most of the fans were disappointed with it. However, now the tables have turned fully upside down. Nearly 2 years after release, Cyberpunk 2077 has reached a milestone regarding reviews on Steam, reaching 90% very positive for the first time. After frequent community interaction, several promising updates, and a recent anime prequel that enjoyed universal critical acclaim, Cyberpunk 2077 is experiencing a renaissance that many believe it deserves. It looks like the year 2022 has been a breath of fresh air for Cyberpunk 2077 in terms of multiple aspects. Following the release of stable updates and major bug-fixing attempts by CDPR's team of developers, the sci-fi title feels like a whole new game altogether. As a result, it has become a smash hit in the last few months across the community. Cyberpunk 2077 receives over 90% positive reviews for the first time. The story of this ambitious project has been like a true roller coaster ride. From being one of the most awaited releases in gaming history to being one of the biggest debacles in terms of global launch, the title has witnessed everything. A year ago, no one could have expected it to bounce back after what happened to it following a catastrophic debut in December 2020. But Cyberpunk 2077 has made a grand return, nearly 2 years after its controversial launch. Yes, it had many flaws and problems, but now they have been mostly fixed, thanks to the continuous efforts of CD Projekt Red. Eventually, many fans have begun to embrace the Night City now, with open arms. Cyberpunk 2077's launch was one of the most controversial thus far in gaming, with the long-anticipated title facing problems so extensive that it was removed from the PlayStation Store shortly after release. CD Projekt Red had to honor countless refunds and endure a winter of fierce criticism for the way in which they handled marketing for the title, particularly for refusing media outlets to review the game on PS4 and Xbox One before launch. Since then, however, Cyberpunk 2077 has returned to the PlayStation Store, surpassed a sales total of 20 million, and seen an impressive resurgence for a single-player game. Much of the shifting sentiment towards Cyberpunk 2077 is embodied by the ever-improving review scores, captured in an image uploaded to Reddit by u/Limbacy and still viewable on the game's Steam page. Although only 77% of the nearly 500,000 existing reviews are positive, that percentage increases to 90% of the most recent 16,460, emphasizing just how far Cyberpunk 2077 has come. Comments were celebrating the achievement, pleased to see that the game was receiving the recognition many believed it deserved. Some others took a different tone, critical of CD Projekt Red's decisions, broken promises, and refusal to delay the title further. Cyberpunk 2077's revival is not merely down to patches, with substantial credit that can be afforded to the Cyberpunk Edgerunners anime, animated by Studio Trigger and overseen by CD Projekt Red. The prequel told a beautiful and emotional story set in Night City, the same region that players inhabit during their time with Cyberpunk 2077. Those exploring Night City have been discovering locations from the anime in-game, making use of Rebecca's shotgun, and turning the narrative of Cyberpunk 2077 into a revenge story following the conclusion of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. For the first time on Steam, Cyberpunk 2077 has been given a positive rating of over 90% by the players. It means that a lot of users are immensely happy with this game. And since they have enjoyed playing it, it's been receiving a high score from most of them. It has been a growing trend for the last few months. A Reddit user shared this news recently while mentioning how much popular CP77 has become. Without a doubt, it's a great update for a title like the one from CD Projekt Red. Given its past history, this new wave of amazing reactions from the majority of gamers will definitely provide solid momentum to it going forward. Especially ahead of the upcoming expansion, which will arrive next year. The positive sentiment towards Cyberpunk 2077 was already evident given the ostensibly warm reception to an announcement of the open-world RPG's one and only expansion. Cyberpunk, Edgerunners likely gave the developers even greater confidence when announcing a sequel to Cyberpunk 2077, dubbed Project Orion, which is intended to prove the full power and potential of the Cyberpunk universe. CD Projekt Red has proven that this IP is built upon rich and compelling foundations, so hopefully it learns valuable lessons for whenever the launch comes around. If the launch of Cyberpunk 2077 was more than chaotic with catastrophic console versions and a good PC version but with a lot of bugs, things are changing. The future of the RPG even looks quite bright. The Netflix series, for example, is a real delight and a great critical success. Better, it gave a new breath and a new impetus to the RPG by bringing in many players. Netflix to the rescue of Cyberpunk 2077. The Cyberpunk 2077 Edgerunners series has received fairly unanimous and rave reviews, so much so that the show scores 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. On Metacritic, it is also of the same ilk with an exceptional score of 8.9 for users.